we're going to begin this screencast by creating a new project from the command line app template. And we're going to give this a name, simple CLI example. Now, in order for us to build a command line interface, we need to be able to interact with the user. One way of interacting with the user, of course, is by having the user type in some input and having the application react to that. With a command line interface, we would expect that this input comes from the keyboard and the user types in his input to the program via the keyboard. Now, in order to get hold of the inputs provided by a keyboard in Java, what we're going to use is the built-in scanner class, and we're going to create a new scanner object. Now we're going to instantiate this object by invoking a special constructor that takes an input stream as an argument. And the input stream that we're providing it with is the system in input stream. And this maps to the default input device, which on a typical computer will be the keyboard. So we're just going to import the scanner class here. And then we're going to present the user with a menu. So we're going to say system.out.println. And we're going to say options, and then below options we're going to print out, system out print line, and below this line we're going to print out the options available to the user. And to begin with, we will present him with just a single option, and we will call that option number 1, print hello. Now we need to fetch the input from the user, and since we're expecting an integer as a choice, we're going to declare down here an integer, and we're going to assign it a value that we get from the scanner object by calling the nextInt method. This method will wait for the user to put in an integer. So if the user puts in something aside from an integer, we're just going to hang here until finally we receive an integer. Once that is done, we can start branching based on the value of choice. So we can say if choice equals 1. Here the user would expect the program to print a line, namely hello. So we can go ahead and start our small command line interface example and see if it works as we're anticipating. So here we are printing options, and then we have one option so far, and this is the print hello option. So I'm going to put in the number 1 and see what happens. And as we can see, the program prints hello. We'll notice a few things here. First and foremost, if I do this again and run the program once more, and I put in a value aside from 1, say 2, the program is going to do nothing and just terminate, because this means that our branching down here is not fulfilled. The condition down here is not true, so this means that we will not print out hello. Another thing we'll notice is that even in the case where we put in the number 1, the application will be able to print hello, but then it'll immediately terminate afterwards. Now, this is not necessarily the behavior that a user would expect from the program. Say that he wanted to use the same functionality several times, then he wouldn't want to have to restart the application each time he wants to provide a new input to the program. So we'll start out by handling that by creating a while loop. And this while loop is going to be what is known as an infinite loop, in the sense that the continuation condition up here is always true. Obviously, this is the value that we put in as a literal, and this will never change. The question then is, if we run this program, how are we ever going to break the loop? And as it stands, we're not. So this means that we'll need to force terminate the application in order to have it terminate. What we could do is we could actually provide the user of our application with the ability to terminate the application at his will. And we can do that by providing him with another choice. Well, actually, let's give this another number. Say 9, exit application. Now, in order to actually exit the application, we will need to do an additional statement in our if statements down here. And we're going to say if choice equals 9, what we're going to do is we are going to call system.exit with an exit code of 0, which means everything is okay. This was an intended exit. And then we'll try and run our application again. We're going to test two things. One, can we have the application print hello multiple times? And two, can we have the application exit at our will? So we're going to put in the number 1 and see that it prints hello. Now we are presented again with the options, and that's because we, in our while loop here, to begin with, print out the menu for the user of the application. This is of course necessary because if a user has used the application a lot, the menu will at some point be so far off that it's inconvenient for the user to scroll back and find it again. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to print the menu each time the user has invoked the command in order to have them presented with their options at any given time. Now again, we could try and put in an, for our program, invalid value of say 2 and see that again our program doesn't do anything aside from looping back and printing the options again, thereby implying to the user that you need to put in one of these numbers in order to have a behavior from the program. Finally, what we can try and do is try and exit the application by putting in a 9 and see that now our application terminates as we would expect.